video, we will focus on European exploration in North America by looking at the elements of the second history standard and element B of the third geography standard. We will also be touching on parts of the first geography standard. Let's begin by examining the elements of History Standard 2. We will look at why explorers from across Europe chose to risk their lives to explore North America. Our focus will be on 6 explorers: Cabot, Balboa, De Soto, Columbus, Hudson, and Cartier, and their accomplishments. We will also examine the ways in which European explorers and American Indians cooperated with one another and conflicts that developed. Geography clearly plays an important role in exploration, so we will also look at the impact the physical environment had on the success or failure of the explorers. Finally, we will look specifically at 3 of the major rivers listed in Geography Standard 1A: the Mississippi, the Hudson, and the St. Lawrence rivers, and their connection to European exploration. Let's start by considering the era we are studying, the 15th century. Clearly, in the 1400s, travel to unknown lands was a risky endeavor. So what inspired explorers to risk their lives and take these dangerous journeys? The answer to this question is often summarized with the memorable phrase, gold, God, and glory. Many European countries during this time pursued and funded exploration around the world in an effort to obtain valuable natural resources and easier access to new or existing trade partners. In particular, many explorations were seeking new routes to the resources and trade opportunities in Cathay, which at the time was the name for the area we now call China. So the word gold in this phrase doesn't refer to finding gold exclusively, though many explorers hoped to do exactly that, but instead refers to anything that could increase a nation's wealth. In addition to increasing trade and access to natural resources, some European countries felt the spread of religion to other parts of the world was a noble and important goal. Finally, European countries recognized that they could gain power and glory by exploring and colonizing new lands. This desire for increased political power was the driving force for some countries to pursue exploration. While different countries had different motives for exploration, it should also be noted that different explorers had different motives as well, some of which diverged from those of the countries that sponsored their travels. Let's begin with a closer look at what is perhaps the best known of the explorers third graders study, Christopher Columbus. It is a widely held myth that in the age of exploration, people believed the world was flat and that a ship could easily fall off the edge of the earth if it traveled too far. The reality is that educated people during this time knew very well that the world was round and that, at least theoretically, you could reach Asia from Europe by traveling west. What wasn't known was the distance one would have to travel to accomplish this, or what obstacles may be found along the way. Columbus calculated that the distance was manageable and convinced Spain to finance his expedition. If he succeeded in reaching Asia by heading west from Europe, Spain would benefit from this new trade route, and Columbus himself would be named Admiral of the Ocean Sea and could rule any land he discovered in the name of Spain. Honors like this were of great appeal to Columbus, but he also believed that it was God's plan for him to travel to new lands and convert people to Christianity. After a much longer than expected journey, Columbus, his ships, and his crew reached the Bahama Islands. Upon landing, Columbus found the natives of the island, which he had named San Salvador, to be friendly and helpful, and immediately began trading with them. Because Columbus incorrectly believed he had reached an island of Asia's Indies, he called the natives Indians. Interactions with the natives of the islands were not always smooth. There were numerous violent interactions between Columbus and the native peoples, and he enslaved many of them. Additionally, the European sailors brought with them new diseases that killed many natives. After his initial voyage, Columbus returned to Spain to great acclaim. But in the 3 voyages that followed, Columbus's prestige diminished due to many factors, including serious accusations from angry settlers in the lands he ruled, and his failure to find greater riches. Eventually, the King and Queen of Spain had Columbus arrested and stripped him of his titles. Columbus was later released from prison and even made a final voyage to the New World following his imprisonment, but he never regained the prestige he once held. There is one more common misconception we should address before we move on to our next explorer, and that is the idea that Christopher Columbus discovered America. There are lots of reasons this is false. To begin, people had been living in the Americas for thousands of years before Columbus was even born. Additionally, history indicates that other explorers had actually reached these same lands long before Columbus. Columbus certainly was not the only explorer sponsored by Spain to make significant contributions to the exploration of North America. Vasco Núñez de Balboa, in addition to being the leader of the first stable European settlement in Central America, was also the first European to see the eastern shore of the Pacific Ocean. In addition to conquering and ruling new lands, Balboa and his Spanish sponsors sought gold in South and Central America. Conquering these lands frequently led to battles with natives. Balboa was a fierce warrior, and he and his men often tortured the natives they encountered in order to gain information and inspire fear. Balboa fell in and out of favor with Spain's king, but his announcement that he had discovered the Pacific Ocean, which he called the South Sea, helped him redeem himself. This accomplishment was not an easy one. Balboa sailed with hundreds of men, including captured natives, to the narrowest part of the Isthmus of Panama and fought through the natural environment of swamps, rivers, and jungles before sighting the ocean. Despite this accomplishment, conflicts with another Spanish leader in Central America eventually led to the trial and execution of Balboa. Following in the traditions of Columbus and Balboa, Hernando de Soto made a name for himself as a young man, as a skilled trader and a daring sailor. De Soto had a thirst for gold, which was a perfect fit for Spain's goal to expand its riches and trade routes. After many years in South America, Spain commissioned De Soto to conquer what is now known as Florida and find more gold. De Soto moved north through modern-day Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and North and South Carolina, led by native peoples he captured and enslaved as he traveled. Along the way, De Soto and his men encountered numerous attacks by natives. Though De Soto violently defeated the natives again and again, his men also suffered from the attacks. Regardless of the frequent attacks, De Soto continued his journey across the southern part of North America and is known as the first European to lay eyes on the Mississippi River. Spain certainly was not the only European country that sought to explore the world at this time. England sponsored the voyage of John Cabot in response to the news of Spain's successes in the New World. England, too, hoped to find new trade partners. Unlike the Spanish explorers we have discussed who explored the Caribbean, Central America, and southern North America, Cabot landed much farther north in modern-day Canada. Much like Columbus, Cabot believed he had reached Asia and returned to England with stories of his success in finding a shorter, northern route to Asia, and of the wonderful lands and abundant fish he had found. Cabot set off on a second voyage the next year, but was likely killed in a shipwreck. French explorer Jacques Cartier followed a route similar to that taken by Cabot. The King of France hoped to explore these northern lands to discover gold and spices and an easier route to Asia. On his first voyage, Cartier explored the eastern coast of modern Canada and the Gulf of St. Lawrence. He is given credit for naming Canada, but the name was in fact taken from the natives' name for the area. He captured 2 natives who helped him travel farther during his second voyage. This time he traveled on the St. Lawrence River to the area we now know as Quebec. Cartier and his men were shocked by the severity of the winter in the area, having expected only a mild winter. Many of Cartier's men died during the winter. While Cartier had initially established a friendly and cooperative relationship with the natives in the area, this relationship collapsed due to the actions of some of Cartier's men. Though Cartier had been sent to find valuable gold and other resources, he found only worthless minerals that resembled the riches he sought. Finally, we will take a look at Henry Hudson, who sailed multiple times for England, but made one of his greatest discoveries on a voyage sponsored by the Dutch. Though he sailed many decades after the other explorers we have discussed, his primary goal was the same: to discover a shorter route from Europe to Asia. His focus was on a northeast passage through the Arctic Ocean, north of modern Russia. But obstacles forced him to abandon this route and instead pursue a northwest passage through the Canadian Arctic. During this voyage for the Dutch, Hudson explored a river through modern New York that now bears his name, the Hudson River. Hudson correctly concluded this river would not reach the Pacific Ocean, but maintained hope that a passage could be found nearby. Hudson made one final voyage, again sponsored by England, to explore what would later be named Hudson Bay. Hudson and his crew encountered a harsh winter, leading to clashes between Hudson and his men. During their return trip to England, the men mutinied and set Hudson, his son, and 7 other men adrift in a small boat in Hudson Bay. Hudson was never heard from again. Though these explorers sailed many centuries ago, we still see evidence of the impact of their journeys, whether in the names of geographic features or in the languages spoken in different areas of North America. Students will also study conflicts that developed between the sponsor countries of these explorers over control of their North American colonies later in their study of American history. Learn more about European exploration of North America by visiting these websites. The History Channel offers useful information for teachers as well as videos with actors portraying the explorers 3rd grade students study. There's even a cool infographic describing the life of a sailor aboard a vessel. PBS provides short videos about each of the explorers to help teachers expand their knowledge. This site, through EduPlace, provides an animated, interactive map showing the routes of each explorer.